What is going on? Welcome to the Just Gonna Say It podcast. Welcome to Dylan Talks Tone on Tuesday afternoon at 4 p.m. We do this every week. Do a audio, video, live, ad-free podcast, and then we upload it to all of the normal podcasty things later in the week. So thanks for stopping by. So these are all ad-free. If you want to use a super chat to support the channel, you could do that. You can also go to DylanTalksTone.com. Actually, any of these links right here will get you to a spot that can help you support the channel in any way that you wish, or you can just watch and comment and participate in our conversation today. We are going to talk, we're going to have a conversation. And I want it to be a real conversation. I want you to get in there. Get in the chat, get in the comment section if you're watching this afterwards. And let's talk about what do guitar players really want with new releases? When we think about what we have versus what we're interested in, stuff that's not out yet, when a new product comes out, how excited are we about it? It's an interesting place to be, right? Because there actually is a lot of really cool new gear that comes out. But there's a couple of different kind of extremes to it when we start talking about how people feel about it. So that's what we're going to talk about. So as we go, I want to get your thoughts on some of this stuff. Over the last, whatever it is, dozen or so years, we've been making YouTube videos, millions of views and thousands, hundreds of thousands of comments, and keeping track of as many of them as we can. I can't keep track of all of them. I should say that Dylan Talks Tone 2, we started a new channel just for this. So Dylan Talks Tone and then the number 2 after it. We kind of go over some of our videos in the comments section and stuff. So if you comment on this video, we'll probably talk about it like sometime next week and kind of just get your thoughts and share your thoughts with others, because I think that's a really constructive thing to do. But over that time, started to kind of realize that there's a couple of different camps when it comes to new gear and when it comes out, how it comes out, and people's reactions to it, right? So you're going to have like they'll push, let's say this. A lot of times what happens is gear gets pushed into two different sides, like two different extremes. And then there's stuff in the middle. So you'll have like the very practical, very normal, in the dirt bike industry, we used to call it bold new graphics, right? Where, a dirt bike would come out and the next year it would basically be the same thing as it was last year, but they would change the graphics a little bit so you could tell that it was the new one. But underneath, it was pretty much the same. And, so you've got a new Strat, you got a new Telly, you got a new Les Paul, basic shapes, basic stuff. They might be like, we're going to come out with a new finish. We're going to call it something different. We might tweak the pickups a little bit, but overall, it's just kind of a thing. They're efficient to make. They're cheap to make those, not cheap, but they're cheaper to revise an already made product than it is to come out with a completely new one. A lot of these products are kind of for the everyman. So, you'll have like your custom shop stuff, obviously in limited numbers, and then you'll have your like standard stuff in a few more. And then you'll have like the Asian versions of it. So like your Epiphones and your Squire versions of the more expensive stuff in volume. And those are your kind of your volume leaders. It's just kind of what we get, right? And oftentimes the market, the audience, all of us who play guitars, another Strat comes out and you're just like, oh, okay. Like it's cool. Yeah. I mean, but I already have one, what makes you want that? What makes you want the new Strat that looks just like the other Strat? Like, so we're all like, well, we want something new. Why do they keep coming out with the same exact thing? I've seen this a million times already. Okay, to be fair, there's only so many ways that a brand, can come up with a new product and still remain a brand, right? So It's got to look like a Strat. It's got to sound like a Strat or a Tele or a Les Paul or whatever. But those companies aren't going to come out with something completely way left field that isn't identify as a Fender or identify like you can't, when you look across the room, you're like, oh yeah, that's a Fender. You look across the room, oh yeah, that's a Gibson. They're not going to go too far from that. And it's got to be guitar shaped. It's got to be usable. It can't be super wacky. And just to sort of play it safe within their brand, it's going to sort of be, it's going to sort of be the boring reissue of the old thing in bold new graphics, right? And then you have kind of the opposite direction of this, right? So you'll have like the wacky thing, the wild and crazy, headless, weird shape, active pickups, some bonkers material, some crazy, super crazy thing. And then, think of one, get in the comments and let me know what you think of this. So what is a crazy guitar design that doesn't hold to any traditional stuff? Put that in the comments, put that in the chat. And we'll think of some as we talk about this. Usually it's going to have some sort of material that's different. Maybe they make the neck different. Maybe there's carbon fiber in the neck. Maybe there's, maybe the body's actually out of something different. Maybe it's got, like I said, maybe it's got active pickups. And it is actually, if you look at it, it's pretty different, right? But then the community reaction to that is going to sort of be, oh, well, that's so gimmicky. Like, that's not even practical. And it's not even it's going to just go away. Nobody's going to buy that. It's going to be so, like, it's just a gimmick, right? I don't know why they have to go so crazy because all I want is a black Strat, right? So here's the problem is that as we send various sections of the guitar community into these complete extremes and sort of into their angry corners of the internet, because that's kind of what happens when this stuff comes out. You think of the PRS, that Chloe that just came out, that just all the various corners of the internet for various reasons just kind of hated on that guitar for some reason. Is actually a very interesting instrument. But for some reason, it's weird. It's weird that happens, but it does happen. So there's a paradox here because you have the thing that's too boring, and then you have the thing that's not boring enough. And the same person who's like, that thing is gimmicky and impractical and it's not normal and I don't like it because it's not normal, are the same folks that are like, man, I wish Gibson would do something different than just come out with the same thing every year. So when you say either of those things, are you actually like living in the moment of what you're saying and actually listening to what you're saying? Like, is that it? Where are we? Like, where are we on those things? It's an interesting conversation. Let's see if there's anybody who's talking. Gibson tried to go to a little different with a Theodore and it flopped. I don't know that it flopped. That guitar was kind of expensive. I'd like a Martin Lute. Okay, cool. Yeah, new materials are cool. I agree. Switchable pickup guitar that's under $2,000. Try doing it. It's very expensive to do, and make it work. Straddling the fence between identity and innovation is a fine line sometimes. It is, and honestly, it's not just in guitar stuff, right? It's in every. There's lots of areas of the world that's the same thing. Maybe this is similar to the next Metallica problem. The market is so saturated with novelty that nothing can become culturally canonical anymore. Ooh, okay. So we're going to talk about market saturation. Market saturation is an interesting term, but I think it's pretty lazy. Okay. So I love that you brought this up, and I'm not criticizing your comment because I think it's awesome. And I think you have a very good point because basically once you have this thing, it's tough for anybody else to sort of, once it has its own identity, how do you break into that, right? And then on the flip side of that, how do you Metallica out? How does Metallica even out Metallica themselves? They never really have since the Black Album, right? It's hard. So I'm not saying they haven't, but you understand what I'm saying in principle. Yes, it's a tough thing. It's a tough thing to come up with that sort of that balance. Definitely. So then I guess we got to figure out what the sweet spot is, right? What's the sweet spot between this super whatever, it's just another black Strat, and this crazy thing? Let's use the Clio for an example, or maybe some sort of Stramberg or some sort of, right, like wild guitar. I think in the thumbnail of this, I used a Tosin Abasi model because they're super wacky, right? They're neat. The technology's cool, but they're not traditional at all, and they're very nichey, right? So we have to figure out what's in between. I want something that's practical and utilitarian and reminds me of the old days and reminds me of vintagey stuff. Oh, and it has to be budget friendly. It can't be expensive, and it has to be appealing, aesthetically. But I don't want it to be too different because I don't want to be that weirdo, at the open mic night or in the Facebook group, because I never leave the house actually. But I want it to be sort of new and innovative. You don't say. Like, you want all the things in one guitar. You want everything. You want all of it. This is what the guitar industry is constantly trying to figure out. They're trying to make you happy. They're trying to figure it out. If they did figure it out, what would happen? So let's say the perfect amount of innovation, the perfect amount of classic, the perfect amount of at the right price point, right? Like the ultimate guitar came out, right? Let's say it was $1,400, made in the United States, had all the latest stuff, had everything everybody wanted, looked sort of like a Les Paul Strat Tele 335 thing, right? It was all kind of smashed into one. Then we go back to the comment that the gentleman made, and now it just becomes its own brand of meh, right? It just becomes mush. Because now you have it, then what? Where's the innovation after that? Then here's what happens. Everybody makes that because they think that is that's the standard. So now that's going to be what everybody is striving for, is this middle of the road thing, and then it becomes mediocre and boring. So it's a constantly moving target that, if we did that, would probably make it worse. Because then what would happen is you would have brands, they basically losing their own identity, trying to become a thing. I don't think I have the right pocket knife on me now to illustrate this. But for those of you that have a pocket knife, basically what would happen is everything would become a Strat Telecaster, Les Paul 335 SG, mushed together. In the pocket knife world, it would be like everything would become like a Buck 110, like, the normal lockback folding hunter. Like we would never get past that, because that's just the knife that does knife things, right? You would have the guitar that does guitar things, and then that just would be that. And so then you would really have to then market saturation would really, 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 really become a problem, because everybody would be making the exact same thing. Let's see. Maybe there's something to be said about the headless bedroom prog boys of the 2010s. Oh, that's really funny. So let's talk about that market saturation thing. Market saturation isn't inherently bad. A lot of folks want to say, well, the market's totally saturated with those things. Oh, there's just Strat copies everywhere, and there's, blah, 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 right? Like you hear, this is like a trope that gets, right? But is that bad? is that bad? Because you can go get at any price point, at any quality level, in any color, in any bridge, in any pickup combination, in any pick guard color, in anything. You can get basically any guitar you want. So yes, there's a million of everything, right? There's a million Les Paul copies. There's a million Strat copies. There's a million Tele copies. There's a million, right? And nobody's coming up with anything different. And you're like, well, the market's totally saturated with just this old stuff. Okay. But that means that you can have exactly what you want most of the time. Most of the time. I'm left-handed. I play right-handed, but I think about left-handed players in this instance. They're very, 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 very limited, right? Because they say that 5% of people who play guitar are left-handed, and so they don't, there's just not very many people that build left-handed guitars. So they're sort of limited, right? And they have a couple from each brand that are available, and that's basically that. And not every brand at that. So they feel what everybody used to feel. Back in the old days, I don't know if you know this or not, but back in my day, back in the old days, there was a Strat, a Tele, a Les Paul, an SG, a 335, and that was it. And a Firebird was the weird one, right? Like, and that's it. There was nothing. That's all you had. And even in the 80s, Schecter started doing stuff. In the early 80s, I had a buddy who had a custom shop Schecter in like 84. Schecter started out as like a parts house, and then they started making kind of parts casters, and then they started making custom stuff, and then they became what they became now. But back in the day, they were like this super custom Strat thing. So then in the early 80s, you sort of started having, some of these brands kind of giving you an option here or there outside of what was just in the, well, back in those days, it was the Manny's catalog or the, whatever. And now you can have anything you want. You can have any color you want, anything you want, any variation on anything you want. It's available. Mostly made in China, but that's okay. For those of you that want that. And if you're willing to pay for it in the United States or in whatever country you live in, chances are you can get a Strat copy, like made wherever you live. A Tele copy, a Les Paul copy of some variation, right? Because they're pretty gnarly about that. But I think it's neat. So here's the question. Not only is it cool to have market saturation, I think it is. I think having choices is very cool. We didn't always used to have that. And you're going to say, well, I'm not impressed because everything's the same. But let me flip this around on you. What are you looking for? Because if you are looking for something special and then you find that something special, then it's really cool because there are millions of Strats. Because there are millions of Teles, there are millions of everything. And then because of that market saturation, you end up finding something really cool and you're like, ooh, this is really cool. And I'm the only one that has this. Or, me and 5 other guys have this or, whatever. It's really cool when you end up getting the thing, that you wanted. I just think it's really neat. It gives us kind of something to strive for and have fun looking for. Having something sort of special. Lefty power. Let's see. I don't want any new guitars personally, less buying, more playing. Okay. Yeah, no, that's cool. But there's always going to be people that want more guitars. And the audience for guitar playing is growing and growing and growing. This is something that I think we need to also think about too, okay? Just kind of approach this with a little bit of humility. The folks that are in the guitar community, us, who are nerds about this stuff, okay? Who like this conversation, who like thinking about the next weird thing, even if we don't buy it. Okay, so Alex, let's say Smart, maybe your first name is Smart, I'm not sure. Let's say that you don't want to buy any new guitar. Isn't it still cool? Fun? It's fun. Like when you look at, Gear News or whatever, and it comes out and you're like, oh, that's neat though. I think that's cool. I don't want it. I don't want to buy it. I already have what I want, but that's pretty neat. It's neat to see the stuff. It's neat to understand it. It's neat to kind of nerd out about it. But the crowd of us that does that, we think we rule the world because we get on the internet and we're amongst a whole bunch of other people that do the same thing. But newsflash, we're a very, 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 very small portion of the percentage of folks who actually buy guitars. Okay? The majority of folks who buy instruments don't care about any of this stuff. They just want to play guitar. And what's interesting is even a lot of professional musicians don't care about any of this stuff. I know a lot of them. They don't care. You've watched the rig rundowns. You've seen the folks who are like, yeah, I don't even know. Hey, what strings are on this? I don't know. Over here, we're like, what alloy and what temperature was the E string cryogenically? And they're over there like, yeah, I don't know. Whatever. What is it? I don't know. They gave it to me for free. I just put it on there. I play it. And it sounds awesome. Right? So the majority of folks who play guitar just play guitar and they just enjoy it. And so we have to look at, well, I think the guitar industry should do blah, 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 blah. Calm down. Like we're not the group of us who says all those things and does all those things and talks about all that stuff. We're not that big a deal, really. The majority of folks, it's not that big a deal. Looking forward to a DTT P90 that should be on the way. Yeah, actually, it's in a box sitting right there. I missed the mailman by like 30 minutes today. So it's going out in the morning. I'm pretty sure. Let's see. That comment about why so many would-be lefties just learn right-handed, like I'm split ambidextrous and sort of lucked up on making right-handed instruments work. So I noticed that issue. It's funny, Prismatic System. So I'm left-handed, and I do many, many, many things right-handed. I wind pickups right-handed, actually. I do almost everything right-handed. In fact, even, like people talk about left-handed pocket knives and right-handed pocket knives. I carry my pocket knife right-handed. I do most everything right-handed. I play hockey right-handed. I can bat both ways. I can't really, though. I suck at that. I can actually play hockey. So I would say that I would play tennis left-handed, but I can't for other reasons. I have eye problems that don't allow me to do that. Most things I can do with both hands. So I'm semi-ambidextrous. I can write with my right hand because I've taught myself to write with my right hand, not naturally. But I always wonder, since you brought this up, this is sort of tangential, but I always wonder what would have happened. Is there anything I'm missing out on as a left-handed person playing right-handed? Would I be better, but would there be certain things that I could do maybe, or that I struggle with learning as a left-handed person playing right-handed if I were to actually play left-handed? And I've tried to switch. I've actually tried to play left-handed and I cannot do it. So I don't know. It's a weird thing for me. Yeah, very, very, very interesting. I know it's a little side thing, but yeah. Let's see. Left-handed, but do everything right-handed except for handguns and baseball. Yeah, so I shoot left-hand. I can shoot right-handed, but I prefer. So here's the other thing you may not know about me. I have a couple of weird disabilities, and one of them is I have a right lazy eye. So this eye doesn't actually do anything. I mean, I can see out of it, like I can see, but it doesn't actually do anything. So my near field depth perception is sort of weird. Driving and everything is fine, but like if I, so playing tennis, for example, I can't do it. That's why I brought that up just now, because I can't see where, if the ball comes past me and it's going to hit the racket, I can't actually see this depth away from me. It's really hard. So I have to constantly compensate for that. So I shoot left-handed because I'm left-eyed. But other than that, I think I could do it both ways. Yeah. Yeah, interesting. I'm right-handed and extremely left-eye dominant. Oh yeah, well that makes sense. Yeah. Because that is the way for a lot of folks. But yeah, when we're thinking about this guitar stuff though, kind of sorry, getting back on topic here. The other thing I want to talk about too with this is, so we have all this like market saturation, we say, but it makes it to where cool guitars are actually really cool. And it's kind of anything. I'll tell you, obviously I collect pocket knives, and I was actually just kind of shopping on one of the websites this morning, seeing if anything new came out. And I'm just like, I'm not really buying anything right now because, everything's, I'm not saying I have everything, but I have the little notches, in guitar land. If you have a 335, an SG, a Telecaster, a Stratocaster, and a Les Paul, you're like, okay, I got the bases covered. Or whatever it is, it might be P90, humbucker, single coil, Telecaster, whatever. And you're like, yeah, I got the bases covered. And so I really need something kind of special to like tick that box to make me pull the trigger on something new, right? And that's kind of where I am right now with guitars and with pocket knives, really. And so I'm just kind of like, yeah, I don't really need anything because something super special has not jumped out at me. But this is, in my opinion, why the impractical, weird thing exists. So, going back to the other extreme of the crazy weirdo guitar, the crazy weirdo instrument, the wild technology, whether it be we're a tube amp guy and we've got this digital stuff and we haven't touched it yet. Maybe it's this new pedal that has basically Apple iTunes rentable effects from Boss. I tried to order that the other day, and for some reason when I hit order, it didn't go through. I was live though, so I must not have clicked something. So I am getting one of those coming though. I want to try that thing. But here's the thing. One of the things that I think guitar players are terrible about, really, really, really bad about, is how everything has to have a reason, right? And usually the reason is tone. Well, that doesn't have anything to do with the tone. Why are we even doing that? Who cares? Can't stuff just be cool? So impracticality exists to make us go, oh, that's different. That's not a Strat. That's a wild idea. A lot of the materials ideas, a lot of the design ideas in guitars sometimes are very nichey and they are very focused on a particular audience. For example, that Strandberg stuff, right? That's a fairly narrow genre of music and players that use that, right? The blues dads aren't going to buy those. However, the technology from it, there might be some material science that comes from that. There might be some design. There might be somebody that looks at that and goes, oh, that neck angle, that, or lack thereof, or that neck profiler, that's something that comes from that weird guitar, then all of a sudden evolves into something else that we see every day. Just like racing, right? Like, a lot of the stuff from touring car racing and endurance racing and Formula One eventually makes it into the cars that we drive every day. And so these weird, impractical, quote unquote, impractical designs, they, first of all, wake us up and go, oh, hey, that's cool. And they also create conversation. So the PRS Chloe that came out, everybody's like, this is the stupidest thing ever and it's too expensive and blah, blah, blah. Okay, if you get out of your own head for a second and like allow yourself to look at this objectively for a second and you go, there's actually some really neat things about that guitar. Do you want it? No. Is it too expensive? Probably. Is it anything you're interested in at all whatsoever? Nah. You know, that might be you. But it's pretty neat. And the machines they use to do it and how they make it and the engineering story behind it, like, it's pretty cool. Are they going to affect, is PRS going to affect some other manufacturing processes down the road that are going to improve other products because of this quote unquote cutting edge thing like this? It's almost like a halo piece for them on the production side, you know, at the moment. Maybe, you know, maybe pushing the envelope to impracticality in the view of everyone else. It's not an impractical guitar. The guy who designed it thinks it's perfect. But at the same time, we're like, oh, that's totally impractical, too expensive, too weird, blah, 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 blah. But the fact that PRS pushed it there is actually practical because those things sort of filter down and they, you know, it becomes a halo piece, a show piece of not only the guitar itself, but the technology, the manufacturing processes, the refinement of other things. It might be like, oh, the way we sanded this might, you know, make it into some other guitar, you know, and who knows? I don't know. I'm just saying that's pretty neat. And here's the other thing. It is no designer's responsibility. Okay. This is something that you need to remember. We all need to remember. It is no designer's responsibility to make anything practical for anyone. They just want to make something because they want to make it. End of story. Now, it would help if it was guitar shaped. It would help if it was playable. It would help if the pickups that I designed fit in your guitar, because that would really be handy. Beyond that, it doesn't matter. And if they build 12 of them, 20 people are going to want them and they're going to sell them all. Job done. If they build 100 of them, 200 people are going to want them and they sell them all. Job done. They will reach their goals with this product, right? Whether you think it's impractical or not, somebody will. Because the world is a very big place and we are very small in it, right? So I think that the impracticality and these weird things that we see all the time are really good. It's honestly, it's smart of guitar companies to do these things because not only does it push them technology-wise, but it also pushes engagement, okay? So one of the things I think that people also don't appreciate about the big guitar companies, especially the big three, is that their marketing departments are not dumb, okay? So I know we've all seen it, okay? We've all seen the comment section. Gibson just keeps coming out with this stuff and none of us want this. That's absolutely not true. There's some nerds in an office somewhere looking at every Facebook post, every message, everything, and they're going, you know what? We need to come out with this wacky blue for this Les Paul, because if we make this many of them, we will sell all of them. And there's some nerds in a closet somewhere, in some cubicle in Nashville, figuring this junk out. They look at everything. They look at everything. That's what they get paid to do. And so they're in there and they're just like, so, the comments section on the internet spewing all the hate about Gibson and, for example, and headstocks popping off because people drop guitars. If you don't drop your guitar, the headstock doesn't pop off, by the way. those things, they're like, okay, we take those in stride because that's part of it. But while we're putting up with all the headstock popping off dorks who don't actually own Gibsons anyway, what we're doing is we're actually realizing that we need this wacky blue on this Les Paul Studio or whatever, or we need a glittery Studio. That's the new one, the new sparkly paint Les Paul Studio. You know what? These came out. They did pretty well. The comment section over here is hating on this, loving on this, hating on this, wishing they had this. Okay, glittery Studio. Guitar's going to sell awesome. So if their marketing department's good, they're going to use all of this engagement that they get to come up with a good product. It's going to work. And it does work. And if you don't think it does, it's just because you're not part of it, right? Well, I don't want that. That means nobody wants it. No, you just don't want it. There's like a million other people that do. Like we are just don't forget that we are just small. Like the stuff that I want and the stuff that you want, might be different. But even if it is the same, it's just two of us, right? And we don't represent. You got to remember, somebody like Gibson is making 600 guitars a day. Fender is making pretty close to 1,000, I think, a day in their American plants. So, you know, there's a lot of people building guitars or buying guitars. And, you know, yeah, I think it's really neat. The other thing is the crazy stuff that we think is crazy today and weird won't be crazy in 5 years. When you look at the way guitars are built, so take, for example, the new Telecaster that's $3,000. Okay, the Ultra, whatever it is, I forget what it's called. What is it? It's like they took the Ultra 2 and the American Vintage 2 and they put it together, right? So it's the American Vintage Ultra 2 or whatever it is. Anyway, so it's got some modern stuff on it. It's got some vintage stuff on it. And it's like a melding together of those two guitars. And it's really, really a nice guitar. But it's got some features on it that 5 years ago, 10 years ago, nobody would want on a commercially available guitar. They're only available on custom sort of stuff. Conical radius fretboards. What else? You know, some contouring stuff like that. You know, people were so traditional 15 years ago. When they saw that, they'd go like, that's too wacky, man. I can't deal with it. And now it's a mainstream guitar that everybody can buy because times change and technology comes down, right? I say this all the time about alternative materials. Because the generations of guitar players are changing, the old folks are, honestly, they're dying off, and the new younger guitar players are coming up, and there are new younger guitar players coming up. They don't care if it's alder, if it's ash, if it's whatever. If the guitar works and it sounds good, it is good, which is kind of the way it should be anyway. So I think there's plenty of room for, you know, a lot of this innovation and stuff that we can just let it be, let it happen instead of second guess it. Because I think that's what happens is you take a Telecaster and you make it out of something that you're not familiar with, or you paint it a color that you're not familiar with, or God forbid you put something other than a black or a white pickguard on it. And people freak out, right? Like it's weird, but it's good. It's really good. And the other thing is it's possible. Just put this out there. It's possible to enjoy a guitar even if it's got a gimmick to it, if it's got a new feature, if it's got a new material, right? Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I think it's an interesting conversation. I'm going to come back over to the comments really quick. Let's see. I'm going to go way back up because I can never find exactly what I want. So I modify it. Yep. Innovations like carbon fiber are an exception. And I see the St. Vincent body shape a lot. Yeah, so there are some new body shapes coming up for sure. They're still pretty niche-y, but yes. Hang on, I'm going back through here really quick. Okay, there's the ambidextrous stuff. We talked about that. You can get anything you want custom built if you think it's important enough to pay the price. As far as the guitar industry, they have way smarter industry people that know what we really want. It's true. It's true. A lot of folks when I was in the dirt bike business, we used to talk about this all the time. Like, you know, I can make a bike faster than it comes from the factory, and I can, you know, play with air fuel, and I can play with a lot of things because that's what my expertise is. But some stuff, it's like, and a lot, honestly, the marketing side, there's some weirdos in some white coats with pocket protectors, and those guys know, and you might as well just leave it alone. And a lot of this marketing stuff is true. And if some angry people in some comment sections, it's kind of a funny thing, because the angry people in the comment section think they're the marketing department, but they are tools of the marketing department. So maybe they are the marketing department. See what I mean? Yeah, exactly. Let's see. You're making sense about covering bases. I think my guitar types are covered, so I'm branching into different areas. Bass. Oh, that's cool. The sad irony of players wanting something new is that we are hesitant to fork out money for the new hotness. That's why we're saturated with same old. So I get what you're saying. Yeah, it's all about priorities for anybody. Yeah, it's why I don't have an SG right now, because I got other priorities. Like, I had to build a deck, you know, and I got a grandbaby. I had to buy a car seat. Oh, I had to buy an SUV to put the car seat in. You know, all that stuff just kind of happens. And so, yeah, there's priorities to everything, and sometimes we don't. Yeah. Eventually Amazon will own everything. I doubt that. All right, so here's a question. I'm going to make it personal. I'm not saying that you can't complain in a comment section about a guitar that you don't like. You can do whatever you want. You can be whoever you want, right? We're all free to think what we want. Okay? And like we just talked about, we're kind of helping, because Gibson and Fender and PRS and all those folks are looking, right? They're paying attention to what we like. Otherwise, they wouldn't come out with anything. So we're helping, sort of. So here's my question. What is the purpose of your criticism of a new product when it comes out? What is the end goal? What are you trying to accomplish when you make a comment about the PRS Chloe and how stupid it is, or etc.? If it's just a knee-jerk reaction, or you're just the guy that complains or the gal that complains, even though nobody wants to hear it, because you just have to say it because you're just there, because it's the internet. How useful is that to anybody? It might be useful to PRS or somebody, but it's not really, because you're not that customer anyway. You know, are you just the person that complains? You might be. Do you want to be known for that? Do you want to be known as the guy who just complains in the comment section all the time? Because you know what? you do get known as that. Let me tell you. You do get known as that if you're that person. So flip it around to more positive. We have all of this mediocre stuff. We have all of this, like, everything's whatever. It's fine. Seen a million of them. And then you're like, okay, I don't like that. It's too expensive. It's too expensive. It's too weird. It's too PRS. I don't like PRSs. I don't want a Gibson because all the peg heads break off, involuntarily. You can find something not to like about all kinds of stuff, right? And so, okay, so, fine, right? Like that's, you've done that. It's totally cool. Flip it around, a little more positive. What are you actually looking for? If you spent your time thinking about what you were actually looking for, would that be more productive? A new tone? Maybe it is something simple. Maybe it isn't a new guitar. Maybe it's, you know what? I'd like to freshen this one up. Maybe you want a new pick. Maybe you want new strings. Maybe you want a pick guard. Maybe you want new pickups. Maybe you want new pots. Maybe you like whatever. Little things, right? And then on the bigger picture, I think that one of the things guitar people are horrible at doing is just dreaming. Everything has to be practical. We talked about this earlier. Why does it have to be practical? It can be cool. So, weren't you, when you were a kid, because I know you all are old, all right? So, our average audience on this channel is 45 years old. So, we can all own that. So, when you were young, didn't you have posters of cool stuff on your wall? It might be Farrah Fawcett. That's fine. It might be Bo Derek from 10, like the movie poster. Might be a white Lamborghini Countach. That's what mine was. Or a Porsche 959. I had the silver Porsche 959, like the back half of it. And then I think I had a 911 also. And then I also had some rock star posters. I had some people that I thought I wanted to be when I grew up, right? The point is, we dreamt about stuff. We daydreamed about stuff. We thought stuff was cool. We watched Top Gear. We watch YouTube videos about cars we can't afford. We watch YouTube videos about houses that we will never build. We watch YouTube videos or documentaries about places we've never been and maybe we'll never go. So, why can't we as guitar players do the same thing with a guitar? Why can't we look at the PRS Chloe or the Private Reserve? Wait, that's whiskey. No, that's actually Kroger brand bread. Whatever. Anyway, you know what I'm talking about. Whatever. Doesn't matter. Super fancy, custom shop, anything. $10,000, $50,000, doesn't matter. Who cares? The $30,000 Stradivarius wood violin Telecaster, right? You look at that and you're like, that's stupid. Well, first of all, they sold them before they ever built them. My buddy's the one that bought that wood. He went over there and got that stuff. And he said, before they even built the guitars, all of them were sold. Why can't we just think it's cool? That's really awesome. That wood is super cool. That story is neat. Isn't that cool? Can't you put that on your wall, or can't you dream about that just like anything else? I don't know. I don't get why we can't do that. I think we should, because then what will happen is it'll filter down. So I don't have a 1911. I do have a 1911. I have a really good one. I don't have a Porsche 911. Still, it's not on my wall. I don't have a picture of it on my wall. But it's still on my wall. You know what I mean? Like I'm gonna have one someday. I'm gonna have one. So I've had a bunch of Volkswagens. I've had a bunch of Audis. I've had a 914. I still have an Audi. I'll get there. It's filtered down, right? Like I just told you right now, I kind of have to have a big SUV because I got a grandkid. But it's fast and it's cool. and it's the cousin of a Porsche, right? So why can't we do that with guitar stuff? So yeah, you don't want this super expensive, crazy thing, but you can dream about it and it will filter down into the inspiration of the other things that you do as a guitar player instead of hating on stuff that you can't have or don't have. Can't is a stupid word. Hating on stuff that you don't have yet, right? It took me a good 20 years to finally get a D28. Like that took me a long time. I had a Korean D18 and then I bought a D28 just a couple years ago. Like it took me all my life, basically. My dad's had them. I mean, I've been around them all my life, but I've never had one that I could call my own until a couple of years ago. Like it took me all my life to get a D28. Sometimes that's what it takes. But I think that this weird, crazy stuff is super, super important to think about so that it keeps us dreaming, so that it keeps us positive, so that it keeps us looking, and it keeps us inspired, right? I think we should look at stuff that inspires us. I think I said this in a video a couple of weeks ago, that you should make choices that inspire you, make choices based on inspiration, not on cost. End of story, right? And yeah, so because there's going to be, no matter what, there is going to be many, 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 many guitars that are just meh. And there are going to be some weird ones and some wild and crazy. Don't be so quick to judge those. Look at them for what they are. Like set your own, that's stupid, reaction aside and be like, okay, what were they thinking? Not like what were they thinking, but I mean like, okay, what were they thinking? Where did this come from? What does this inspire? How does it filter down to the things that I see on a daily basis or that I might see in the next couple of years? What idea would I be able to take from that and put onto another guitar, etc.? I've had people do that. Hey, this crazy guitar that I don't want, can you do this with the pickups? Yeah, actually I can. Let's do it. You know, whatever. Doesn't matter. Inspiring is the super important thing, I think. Let it ignite passion instead of hate on it. I think that's what is really important, and I think that's what we should do. That would be my guess. If you guys have thoughts about this, please put it in the comments. If you're watching this afterwards, I'm gonna go back over here real quick, and let's look. Let's see. I think that people are looking for isn't an Abasi or a Chloe. They want a new Flying V or a Jazzmaster, and that it balances innovation with normality. How does a gimmick become iconic? Wow, that's a great question. How does a gimmick become iconic? Think about it and put it in the comments. That is a fantastic question because there are many very iconic things that started out as a gimmick. Flying V being one of them, right? Absolutely. Let's see. I'm going to go back through here real quick. Cool is cool. It's totally true. I had posters of Corvairs. Okay, you're a nerd, but that is awesome. I would love to have a Corvair, actually. Let's see here. I'm just trying to go through some of these really quick. Have you ever played an Eric Johnson signature? I have. They're really cool. Awesome. Well, you guys, this has been super fun. This has been a really fun conversation. I hope you got something inspiring from it. Get in the comments and talk about that. I like that concept or that question. How does a gimmick become iconic? You know, because everything was a gimmick at one time. Everything was. You know, a touchscreen telephone. I remember when touchscreens came out, and I thought they were stupid because I had a BlackBerry, and it was faster for me to to type on a QWERTY keyboard on a BlackBerry than it was on an iPhone. I remember thinking that. I remember thinking when I got my first BlackBerry that QWERTY keyboard I was faster T9 texting. Brianna and I were just talking about this the other day. I was actually faster T9 texting on a Motorola Razr than I was when I got a BlackBerry. I had completely learned it again. I'm like, this is dumb. Why am I ever going to need this? And now, 20 years later, you can't live without it. So there you go. You guys, this has been super fun. Thanks for hanging out. We will see you tomorrow. I got a video coming out tomorrow. I think you'll dig. We'll see you then.